Welcome to Surrender School.
Let me begin with our mission statement. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do adhere, or at least try to adhere to the principles of the traditions. Our background, all of us, is 12-step, and we love the big book. So we stay within the spirit of the tradition. Everything that we offer is out on the website. There is a lot of stuff there, about 3 years worth of classes and training and videos and worksheets and all kinds of things out there. So go check it out. It's worth your time to take a look at all the things that have been done. Watch the chat, because in the chat will be posted details of things that are going on right now and things that will be coming up. In addition to that, we have a second Zoom room, and most of the things have migrated over to the second Zoom room. When this course is over, at whatever point in time it is over, anything that we do in the future, including office hours and so forth, will all migrate to room 2, but we'll make sure everybody knows about it, that, there's an announcement that says that. We'll keep talking about it in the sessions and so forth, because and Zoom room 1 will in essence disappear, and then Zoom room 2 will be where everything is held. If you have a B in front of your name, that means that you are going to be a leader for the breakout room today. If you see the B there and don't want to be a breakout room leader, let Kathy M know that you're not interested in being the breakout room leader today. So here's some things that we have going on. Abstinence and recovery, Scarlett H is leading that. And that is basically a weekly version of the May intensive training course that Linda T did back in May. And so each of the sessions that she did each day now is once a week, and that will be for 31 weeks. And she started that back in a month and a half ago, something like that. Okay, so anyway, go to that. There's also an emotional sobriety reading room. We again are reading Ellen Berger's Emotional Sobriety. That may be something that we read year after year because it's a really, really good book and very helpful to everybody. Kim and Dave are leading that Friday mornings at 8 a.m. And they will do that starting in November. They will do that the last 3 weeks of the month, and the first week of the month will be Michael Naylor and my First Friday Enneagram Exchange. Let me give you a little background on the Enneagram Exchange. What will happen the first month will be Michael Naylor kind of sharing on his recovery journey. The second month will probably be me sharing on mine, with him interviewing me. And then after that, what we want to do is have kind of a one-on-one intensive with someone who is interested in talking to Michael Naylor and getting his opinion on things. And if we can do it to where it's a full, 20, 25 minutes with a person. So let's say Joy says, yes, I want to be that person. Then basically Michael Naylor would talk to Joy in front of, 50 of her favorite friends, right? So anyway, the idea is to truly have an Enneagram exchange with someone as wise and wonderful as Michael Naylor, and his willingness to work with us in this way, I think, is super exciting. So anyway, keep that in mind if you want to be one of those people. Just realize, I think it'll be just amazingly healing for people, but it is in front of other people and it will be recorded. So anyway, keep that in mind. If you're willing to do that, that would be great. Okay, and then there's the intuitive eating workshop. There is one more week left of Samantha's intuitive eating workshop. It has been, for me, it has literally been life altering. I can't even describe how much it has changed my life. And so it is recorded. It is out there. Very, very helpful. Lots of documents that you can share and all that kind of stuff. Well worth your time. There are people that pay big bucks to get an intuitive eating workshop from Sam and people like Sam. And so you really do want to go out and take a look at that if food is your deal, for sure. Okay. I want to talk for a second. This is what I have as the schedule. What I'd like to do, and I'd like you to think about, is I'm thinking of basically making, so today is the 5th. I'm thinking of basically making the 12th all of step 11. There's not a whole lot of work there. There's some reading that you have to do, but not a whole lot of work. And then making the 19th the step 12, and then the 26th of October, making that basically the wrap up. And then basically we'd start doing either office hours, or I'm working on something else, but I'm not ready to announce it yet. And then that would mean November and December using this time frame would be something else, something different. It'll still be Enneagram stuff because I can't help myself. So even if you've been to office hours, you know, even if they're not about Enneagram, same thing with the reading room, I can't help it. So it'll be something to do with Enneagram. So there is a book called Enneagram for Emotional Intelligence, and this may be what we work on, or it might be some of the things in here, the questions in there. Anyway, so at the end of the session, if you're interested in like voting on that or telling me your opinion of that, that would be great, because I'm really interested in those opinions. It does seem that we're, I was, my brain said circling the drain. That's not what I mean, but it does seem like we're not working as hard as we've been working, and I don't want to waste people's time. So anyway, so be thinking about that. All right, let's take a moment. Feel your breath going in and out. Feel your feet on the floor. Just take a deep breath if you want to, but just basically feel your breath going in and out. Happens without you even thinking about it. And feel your feet on the floor. Get as grounded as you can and be present. Be as present as possible for today. We're going to wrap up step 10 today. Now together, let's do the Surrender School set-aside prayer. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. All right, so once again, the goal of this course is a personal journey for each person. Our focus is to help you understand the relationship between your false self, that ego self, and your true self, and to treat yourself with unrelenting compassion because you are human. So my prayer is that every single person here that's done this work, feels more compassion for themselves than they ever have before. And if that has happened, then I feel like we have been successful, because that's really what we're trying to do. Because only if you feel compassion for yourself instead of judgment, only if, and it doesn't mean 100% of the time, right? Because we're human. But if you can feel compassion for yourself, that's when the true self can emerge. Otherwise, your ego is constantly defending you, right? And we don't even see that until we start doing this work. All right. Some things to keep in mind if you work the steps. Take the test. Obviously, we're nearing the end here, so most of you have taken the test. And more than likely, with most of you, everyone you've ever met in your life has also been asked to take the test by you. So you're like me anyway. All right. We do believe that self-contempt stops spiritual growth. So our goal absolutely is to help each of the people that come here to feel compassion for themselves. I can use the word forgiveness to forgive themselves. That sounds kind of dramatic compared to what we're saying, but it's actually the truth. But if you can get to the point that you feel compassion, then that's absolutely good. We do believe if you do the work or have done the work, that your recovery will be supercharged. And then we want to just remind people to be kind. You can be a lot of things in the world, and I'm going to ask that you be kind to yourself and to other people as well. All right. This slide is about my favorite, because it explains why we are doing this work and why we are asking questions and having you answer questions. And that is so patterns, we see patterns as patterns, and we understand, oh, this is a pattern I'm in instead of me, or it's a projection. It's a story that I'm telling myself about a situation or about myself or about another person instead of the truth, right? And it doesn't mean they're never aligned, but I need to be able to see, am I aligned with what is reality or not? And the reason we want to do that is the more that we see those patterns as patterns and so forth, the less that we believe them, the less we believe in them, and the more they'll dissolve. And this is how the power of our greater power in step 7 can help us dissipate those patterns. And that's really what we're trying to do. All right, so step 10 is continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. That's what step 10 is. And what I want to talk about is, what does the word promptly mean? And it just means performed without delay, that we do it without delay. It does not mean immediate. And some people think that it does mean immediate. I mean, it's great if you can do it immediately, if you notice it and can do it immediately, but that isn't usually what happens, right? Prompt means performed without delay. And the reason that we do it, very simply, is because we want to be able to let it go. So if something happens and you're in an argument with somebody, or there's something that you're not happy with your behavior, and then it's in your head and in your head and in your head, and you're like a rat in a maze, that means you haven't let it go. And the main reason that we want to do this is to let it go, because we expend so much energy basically playing with this. Should I, shouldn't I wish I wouldn't have, I should have said this, all of that. We spend so much time and energy on that that we can't live our lives. We're living, right, basically not that. Okay, so what I want to talk about, what I'd like to have people share, and once again, the moon shadow, the reason I picked moon shadow for this is because moon shadow is rare, right? Because it has to be a very bright moon. And it's also difficult to see the shadow unless you're facing the right direction. Okay, so what I would like to do here, right, is basically share on how do you live in step 10. And basically what I mean by living in step 10, very simply, what I mean by living in step 10 is that first of all, from doing this practice, I now notice things that I didn't notice before. I see things that I didn't see before. And then I am willing, right? And it doesn't always mean make amends. Sometimes it just means, for the 8 anyway, I ask God to put his hand over my mouth. I don't say something. We're going to talk about that a little bit later too. But the idea here is living clean is what to me step 10 means. So real quick, I just want to say my belief is that step 10, 11, and 12 is live clean, seek God, help others. That's simple. And I believe in living in 10, 11, and 12, which is the reason I do office hours. It's the reason I teach this class. It's I believe in living. And to me, that is the service of step 12. But the only way I can do the service of step 12 is if I live clean and seek God. If I will do those two things, then I can basically help cleanly, right? And living there to me is so much richer and so much, it's just such a better life than living in 1, 2, and 3 and beating myself up all the time because my food isn't good or because of whatever, right? So I do believe that our job as recovered people is to live in 10, 11, and 12. Live clean, seek God, help others. That's what we do. All right, so what I'd like to do is the first part of that, which is living clean. And that basically means my behavior is not perfect. It cannot be. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to ask you to share on this. My behavior cannot be perfect. I wish that it could. It can't. Right? I mean, because I'm human, so it's not going to be perfect. But when I say something incautious, when I do something that I wish I wouldn't have done, it's really interesting. I don't do that much anymore. I feel like that old joke that says, God help me to be loving and blah blah blah, and then it says, and in about 5 minutes I'm going to get out of bed. Sometimes I feel like that. I'm like, I spend like no time with anyone except my husband, and I'm usually kind to him because I love him. but but I spend time with my siblings sometimes. Anyway, but the idea here is, how do you live clean? How do you make sure that you do? Or you can talk about how you wish you could live cleaner than you're living right now. But what we're talking about right now is living clean. Now, what I talked about, the step 10 promises are going to be in the breakout rooms. And I really wish I could be there listening to that. But but that's for the breakout rooms, because I think this is what I found. More people will share in the small groups than will share in the big groups. And once again, I don't judge anybody by whether or not they share. I can't do that because some people feel really comfortable sharing, and other people, it's really difficult for them to share. And I don't want you to do things that are difficult. That's the work you do on your own. When you're here, you absorb as much as you can, you get as much as you can out of this, and then you go do good things out in the world. That's what we want to do. Okay. Anybody want to share on how you live clean? Does this mean you don't live clean? I'm kidding. Tamara, go ahead. You're saving me.
I know, is that reversion to type 6? Anyway, this has happened to me a couple times this week. I have been very overwhelmed and stressed and tired. And so perfect opportunity for the pause not to be at the forefront of my existence. A couple of different times, well, 3 actually, dealing with interacting with customer service people, and I I hate to say this, but it's younger customer service people. I just want to know where are they learning how to do their customer service? Anyway, I noticed myself, grocery store example, I'm checking my stuff out, auto check, and this gal just is looking over my shoulder, just like saying, oh, you need to do so. And I said, I didn't ask for help. I felt myself really grumpy. That was not living clean, getting to the cutting to the chase, as my type 8 father would say. Cut to the chase. I'm like, but the whole story is the main thing. Anyway, cutting to the chase. After we had not a very pleasant interaction, it wasn't out yelling or anything, but the energy was just not good. The pause finally came in. It slowly came into my body, and I was like, that intention of hers was not to be, rude. So I got all my groceries together and I walked over to where she was standing, and she had just picked up the phone to dial, but I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, I'm really sorry. That was not okay. And she goes, oh, it's okay. And I said, no, it wasn't okay. I didn't need to be like that. So I guess short answer, trying to stay in touch with the pause and recognizing that when I am tired, what is it? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, it just doesn't work. And I need to look at that. So that's my share.
Awesome.
Want to
Thank
look
you.
at that.
Yeah, and I think and it's so often it's that kind of thing and it sneaks up. We're going to do an exercise later to help invoke the pause for something like that. I think is that because but I will say what happens is when we are grumpy like that, it's almost like we dehumanize the other person. And when you go and apologize to them, you humanize them again. You make them right. It's almost as weird as it sounds, that's almost a better interaction in their life than you just being quietly pleasant. It sounds weird, but it is so true because then they feel affirmed, right? And I did this one time at a hotel, and the person really didn't know what they were doing. I mean, they didn't. And I was like in their face. And then I went away. I mean, I went out like to the little area out front and thought, Cheryl, you don't treat people like that. What the hell? And I went back in and I said, I need to apologize for the way that I treated you. That was completely unfair. And right. And I'm very sorry. And the person teared up, right? It was like, and she said, no one ever does this. And I said, well, you know, I do because I live clean. And otherwise, I mean, it sounds altruistic because I went back and I was, virtuous. But no, I knew in my head I was going to be beating myself up for the next 5 days over this or next 5 years, and I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done with that. And the only way that I can do that is that I make an amends to somebody. I go back and just say, I'm sorry, that was inappropriate, right? So, anyway, yeah, thank you, Tamara. I hear you. All right, Carmen, to you, then Jasmine, then Richard. Go ahead, Carmen.
Carmen, also known as the sneezer. Sorry about that. So what living clean means for me right now, and it does change, is living in reality. And living in reality is so very, very important for me so that I can be honest with myself and honest with other people. Because as a 9, oh my gosh, I just love to ignore things and pretend everything's okay and be the nice person who goes along with everything. And it doesn't work for me anymore because I end up into the food if I don't, because all my emotions get all into a whirl. And then, I don't know what to do with all of that. Here's an example. I'd set up lunch with my cousin and I was going to go drive to her and we were going to walk on the water. Well, when the day came, I was in enough pain because of my recent surgery that I didn't want to go. And so I was putting all of these excuses, lies, total lies through my head, like, oh, I can't make it. I'm not feeling well. But then it was like, no, Carmen, you could just ask her to come over here. Ask her to do the drive here. I mean, it sounds like such a simple thing, but I have these rules in my head, these thou shalt not rules. And one of them is thou shalt not change plans or arrangements to suit yourself or to work for yourself. And okay, that doesn't work anymore these days because I get totally resentful about stuff like that. So, and that's one of them. And the other thing about, ooh, okay, this brings tears to my eyes. living in reality, being in reality, is being aware of who I am now as this person now. And one of the things I'm very much realizing is my memory is not what it used to be. And it's scary to me. And I can't find things. I just spent 2 hours this morning searching for something that I still haven't found. But I'm realizing it's like so important for me to get organized. And as a 9, it's like, oh, I'll deal with it later. I'll put it in a pile and I'll deal with it later. Well, it doesn't work anymore either. And the reality is I'm aging, my memory isn't good, and I hate looking for things. It just gets me all upset. And I've been reading a lot of doing some of the intuitive eating things. And one of them is keeping a journal about my food. And I'm seeing how my emotions flare. I used to think I was this calm, peaceful person because you know what 9s are, but I'm not. I get these raging emotions inside me, and I don't want to be in the food anymore. So it all kind of works together. Paying attention, being honest, being in reality.
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely. Thank you, Carmen. And I want to say on this thing with your cousin, it's like a pendulum swings, and this is what happens with all of us. So we're on the one end where 9s delay, and right, and then you swing over to the other direction where you won't even let yourself rest, right? And we do that. All of us do that with our type. Is once we realize that, and then it becomes wrong to even be right. Instead of realizing there's something in the center, which is asking your cousin to come to you, right? I mean, and so that is just so natural for us to live like that. And that's just part of the settling in and understanding. And twos have this because they never ever take care of themselves, and then they go over to where but then they feel guilty because they're taking care of themselves, and at some point they settle in and just take care of themselves, right? I do, and I absolutely, all of us go through this, I think. And on the aging part, I hear you, sister, because I'm like, I have a password. I'll tell a quick story. I have a list. When I worked, I had a list of all the passwords because there were like 8 different things and they all had to be different passwords. And it's such bullshit, but whatever. I don't care. Anyway, so, and then I have my own passwords for every single, link that I go to and all this. So I have this big sheet of paper that has like 50 things with the link and the password on it. And I worked for the CTO of the company, the chief technical officer, and I'm doing a Zoom with him, and I'm sharing my screen, and that comes up, right? And you're never supposed to have a piece of paper or a print of all your passwords together. And he said, I'm going to act like I didn't see that. I'm like, good, I'm glad. Thank you for doing that. Anyway, so I have that. And on there, I have something that says, your winter coats are in the Great Sierra bag in the garage. And I have one that says, the gifts for the retreat are in, and I'd say where it's at. Because otherwise, yes, just this week, I needed what's it called? I can't even think, the thing that it's like a extension cord, but surge protector. I needed a surge protector. I knew I had one, couldn't find it, bought a new one, used it, and said, oh, I know where I'll put it. And I put it there, and the old surge protector was there. Must have been a really good idea to put it there because that's where I put the last one. So on my thing, it says surge protectors are, and some of it is just accepting that. I wish, I mean, maybe there's some drug I can take. I don't know, but some of it is just, there's just too much shit going on, right? I'm a farm girl. I was born a simple life. My life's not simple now compared to what it is, but still. Anyway, thank you, Carmen. All right. Sorry. Jasmine, go ahead.
It's so many things, but what I really wanted to share on is like the hierarchy. I have a triangle I drew in the bathroom, and I have to look at it every time I use the bathroom, brush my teeth, and in the morning, blah, blah, blah. God is at the top. I'm at next, and then my kids, and then everybody else is after. So I noticed like it helps me to be humble and to not people please. It helps me. It's like a 2-in-1, because what I was doing was like putting so much energy in people pleasing, and then it's edging God out. And then sometimes put myself, with that sense of superiority, and like always trying to fix other people and think I have answers. So it really helps me with my two-ness, that has helped me stay out of a lot of confusion and anxiety and, really despair. Now is it perfect? No, I still have to work at this all the time, but it just really has helped me a lot to just stay with my attention above my feet, because for some reason the distractibility is crazy for me. But anyway, I pass.
So Jasmine, I want to say that idea of the triangle, I love that, with God at the top and then you, because humility is understanding like where you are in that triangle, right? And once you understand that, if you think about it, if the top is all the people, there's no balance at all. If the bottom is the people, that's great. You can serve who you can serve. Your family is above that. And then you're taking care of yourself, but above all of it is God. I love that. I'm going to do that, because sometimes I'm not a people pleaser, but I do put other things in front of that. So yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Richard, to you, and then Vera.
Thank you, Cher. Carmen actually said it better than I'm going to, uh, which is awareness. And I think that's a big challenge is, yeah, presence. Okay. But the thing is, there are so many things that I allow myself to be distracted by that I think there are times when what I need to do is be more aware. And, it's later that I go, oh, I could have handled that so differently. And then go to the person and talk to them. And so it's not just being in the moment, it's having that level of awareness. And if I can tell a quick story, one of my dear friends and I were on a road trip together. This was some years back. I blew up at him. And sometime later, when I saw him again, essentially, I didn't call it that at the time, but I was making amends. I apologized, and he said, that was no big deal. Knowing me as I am, a type 1, I did not let myself off the hook because I was responsible for my behavior. If he didn't get offended by how I was behaving, but how I was behaving still was improper or whatever, I still needed to, and of course I still needed to be responsible.
Yeah, and amends can help heal the other person. If they don't view themselves as harmed, that's really almost beside the point. Or if they view themselves as horribly harmed, it's beside the point. The reason that we do it is to make things right on our side of the street. It really is as simple as that. I think I can remember 10 years that I worked in software. I was a bulldog. They needed some shit done, send her out, she'll do it, right? And I did. And I owed a lot of amends during that period of time, but I made amends. This is God's sense of humor. So the partner company that I worked with, that I was just, really mean to. I was in their face nonstop for probably 4 months. Years later, with the new job I had, I became a trainer for their salespeople, who were the people that I worked with, and I was their trainer. And I was horrible to them. And I went to the owner of the company who was in the class, and I just said, I am so sorry that I acted like that. And he said, Cheryl, you saved our company. And I was like, oh, well, I'm really glad that you look at it that way. Because I was so concerned with the fact that I was bitchy, right? But anyway, but his view of it was completely different than mine. Didn't change the fact that I owed him an amends for my behavior, because it was pretty bad. But I guess it served a purpose, which yay for that. Okay. Thank you, Richard. Vera, to you.
Yeah, so I subscribe to this Enneagram thought a day, and it's been helping because I think that's, as Richard was saying, even having worked, the steps through the Enneagram and knowing, my particular patterns and projections, it's still hard because they become more sophisticated. They become more sophisticated. It's like not the usual stuff, but it's just like a step up of, oh shit, it's the same, but it takes time. And this week, something amazing happened, actually. Amazing. I'm still trying to process. I think that I need to do some journaling and speak to someone about this. So I dragged my mother to the Enneagram this year because she's not a 12-stepper, but she was in pain and a bit depressed. And I suggested she would do, did a course in the Enneagram, and she loved it. And recently we have started talking about her, and I owe a lot of amends to that lady, because I was really, I judged her, the perceptions, how I found her limiting, as a 7. I felt like, oh, she just took my breath away, and not in a good sense, not in a good way. And so I was trying, just basically to tell her that something happened in her life that I actually was aware and that she wasn't apparently. And then, she had like this new course and a new session, and then she came to me and she said, "Do you know what you said about this that happened, and how that kind of, affected me in my childhood?" And anyway, and we went on and on and on. And at some stage, I felt such compassion for her because she doesn't know, she has zero awareness of, she's a 2, I think, or a 9. I'm not quite sure. She hates conflict and she's pretty much, but anyway, zero awareness of what was done to her. And by the way, it was done to her by the same person that actually made my childhood miserable, which was my grandmother, who was very abusive. She was an 8. She was very, very abusive, very traumatized. Anyway. And at some stage, she asked me something like, "How was it for you?" And I said, "Actually, it was horrible because you weren't around. Nobody was around." So I was pretty much stuck with that. But I didn't say it complaining. And for the very first time in my life, I felt seen and I felt heard. And it was such a game changer because, like, she gaslighted me all my life. She gaslit me. She said, "No, no, no. Oh, you say things. That's not true." Where everyone around me knows, all my family knows. But I didn't say it to accuse her of not protecting me. I just said it because I just wanted her to. And that day, the thought for the day was this selfishness, this self-centeredness, of my type, of this don't want to get stuck with painful stories. It was a game changer. It was so beautiful. But anyway, I need to come back next year, I think, because this is actually making a big difference. This is groundbreaking. This is like a legacy story that is just poof. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Vera. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I will say, and I've said this story before, but it really does help me. So the Star Trek Next Generation, they have a holodeck, and Worf is beating up these monsters in the holodeck, and then he defeats them all, and you go, and then it says level 2, and then worse monsters jump up, right? And I feel like that is exactly what it feels like, right? Because it come out of our blind spot comes this thing, we work on it, and then there's more, right? There's more. And there is, because guess what? That is what life is. That is what life is. And we spent so much of our lives avoiding that, running from that, right? Just for whatever, I think it's tied to our basic fear. In my case, being controlled by someone who will harm me. And Vera, you talked about the 7s, it's being trapped in pain. Their fear is trapped in pain. And so we spend our life running from that basic fear. And now we are the brave soldiers who stand and face it. That's who we are. That's who we are this year. Next year is like level 2. And every time I pull together a class, I have a specific audience in mind. Other people can come, that's fine, but there's a specific audience in mind. For next year, the specific audience is you guys, those that have been through the Supercharge this year, and now we're going to go deeper. Right. So I'm so excited about that. I think because I need it for me. So I'm so excited that we're going to do that so that you guys are the audience for that. It doesn't mean other people can't come. They can, absolutely. And they'll learn, and that's awesome. But the focus will be those that have been through the Supercharge this year, because you guys put in a hell of a lot of work. And so we're going to go deeper. And Joy and I are committed to doing that. So I'm excited. Thank you, Vera, for sharing. All right, Becca, to you.
Yeah, what I'm noticing is that I'm having less volatility in my moods and less kind of on constant low level anxiety, less overwhelm. And what that does is that it gives me something other than that to experience. And then when I do like feel something or say something, maybe it's reactive or off, or when I catch myself so much sooner because there's not so much murk going on in there where I wouldn't even feel it. And so I'm finding myself much more able to either feel it and say, well, I don't need to jump in right here. Or say something and then realize, oh, that wasn't quite, what I wanted to say, and then just kind of address it. So it's just like the water is not all stirred up so that I can see things more clearly more often.
Yeah. And some of that comes from what we resist persist, right? And once we can accept and love ourselves and feel compassion for ourselves, that is exactly what happens, right? Because prior to that, it's like we expect, I don't know, we expect something of ourselves that's not even possible for us to live like, but that's the expectation somehow, right? And six, 8s, and 4s, put a lid on it, put a lid on it, put it, 7s too, put a lid on it, I know lids, can't do that anymore. Thank you, Becca. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and we're going to move on. This is Sydney Harbor Bridge. And when I was in Sydney, and you can see the Opera House down there on the left. When I was in Sydney, I walked on the bridge. There is a bridge climb. I wasn't up for that. I didn't do that. First of all, I'm a little afraid of heights, but anyway, it's very beautiful. But the reason I have the bridge, we'll talk about that here in a second. I'm going to talk about the end of day review, which is part of step 10. Some people will say, and I mean, I've heard like drop dead arguments about this. It's step 10, it's step 11, the end of day review. Some people believe that it's part of step 10. I've seen things that were put out, right? And that just basically, he says, and at the end of the day, we look back on our day and see if we've been, the big four, selfish, dishonest, blah, 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 right? Some people say that's step 11. Somewhere in the middle there, he says, and that's step 11. And I want to talk for a second about this because frankly, who gives a shit? Doesn't matter. You're working about the steps, but okay, some people do give a shit. So I'm going to talk about the way that I look at this end of day review. Okay. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. We must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. We're looking back to see, do I owe amends for anything? That to me is part of living clean. Right. And after making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. That is like the next morning. And so what happens, the way that I see it, is when we retire at night, we look back on our day and say, okay, do I owe amends for anything? And I've now invoked my greater power so that when I go to sleep, if there's anything else, show it to me during the night. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm already in my greater power's presence. I'm already there. I am there with my greater power. So this to me is connected. That's why I have the bridge. The bridge is the fact that I do it at night. And then when I wake up in the morning, and during that time at night, I might have a dream. I might have a suggestion that's dropped because your subconscious is open when you're sleeping. So to me, the bridge between 10 and 11 is where we're going to find out the gold, I guess, the best part, right? Retire at night, look back on your day, no morbid reflection, just anything do I owe an amends for? If so, I jot it down and say, don't forget to talk to them. I can then let it go. And then in the morning, I'm already in the presence of my greater power. That's the way that I look at this bridge between 10 and 11. So when people argue about whether it's 10 and 11, I don't care. It's both, right? Because upon awakening says, I want to be present in my greater power's presence when I first wake up in the morning. I didn't realize, by the way, that these were related until I started working on it. But I wake up, and I've talked about this before, with these suggestions in my head. And that's because the night before, I've thought about the day so that I have kind of set this up for that to be able to happen. Here are the promises of step 10. And I love the step 9 promises, but I'm telling you, the step 10, as a fighter like I am, are super important. And we've ceased fighting anything or anyone, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in food, liquor, whatever it is. If tempted, we will recoil as if from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and when we'll find that this has happened automatically, right? It's not this trying, it's not this white knuckling, it's like relaxing. And I've talked about this before, this idea of relaxing into our true self. We are not fighting it, neither avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. And I'll tell you, going through Sam's intuitive eating course, I realized I was in a place of neutrality, safe and protected, and wasn't realizing that I was, because it was in a blind spot. Okay. And the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. And then the final statement in here is the most important. This is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition, which is what the bridge to step 11, which is seeking God. Okay, so, all right, this is what step 11 is about. All right, so are we ready in the break for the breakout room, Kathy?
Yes, we are.
We are. All right, I am going to, so let me just say, here's what we're doing. How have the step 10 promises that I just went over, how have they shown up in your life is what we are sharing in the breakout room. How have the step 10 promises showed up? If you have WhatsApp, yesterday, day before, somewhere in the middle there from me are the step 10 promises. There's if you want to pull those up, there it is.
Yep.
So take a picture of it if you want to. And this is, there's some of the stuff I left out, I truncated because it's not really a promise, if you will. Okay. All right. So you're going to go into breakout rooms and share on that. All right. See you in 20 minutes.
Here we go. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Here's the challenge. We're in the middle of a discussion with someone, let's say. The person is coming across, and once again, it could be a story you're telling yourself, and that's fine because we all tell ourselves stories. They're coming across as angry, right? Like the guy. They're coming across as judgy, like the girl at the bottom. They're coming across as incompetent or not owning their part in whatever, like when you're, working with a customer service person, or it could literally be just an inanimate object that's not working the way you expect. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes and picture a situation like one of these. Okay, deep breath, close your eyes, and there's someone, and maybe this just happened, maybe this happened a year ago, maybe it's never, I think something like this has happened. So it can be somebody who is angry with you. It could be somebody who is judgy, or at least you're interpreting that they're judgy of you. It can be dealing with someone that you're viewing as incompetent. It can be a situation that is out of control, an inanimate object that won't work the way you expect. It can be any of those. And I want you to really like lean into it and feel that situation. Really lean into it, really remember it, feel the feelings you felt. And then what I want you to do is I want you to come up with 2 words, not 3, 2 words that can prick that balloon so it deflates. Just 2 words. It might be something like choose peace. I would prefer it not be fuck you, but if that's what it needs to be, that's what it needs to be. All right. Okay, let me come back to gallery here. What I'd like to do, I would like you to do is literally come up with 2 words, not 3, not 5, 2 words. Invokes the pause, because I believe the pause is from your greater power. And if you can come up with just 2 words, and it can be something like choose peace, right? It can be, nope, I'm not. It can be I am. It can be, right? And you don't want a bunch of words. You want, and maybe it's just 1 word, but it has to be something very short that allows you to go, as a response, to go, interesting, as a response. Because, right, if you feel the need to actually say something, what if you said, interesting? You're going to deal with it later. We all do, right? You're going to sit down and journal on that sucker because you didn't let it go. But what you didn't do, in my case, is get in their face. What you didn't, and it doesn't mean that you don't set boundaries, because you still do that. But I think the pause, and I've talked about this for weeks now, that pause is so important, but it's not an automatic thing for any of us to do. That is not automatic. We have an automatic, right? 8s certainly do, 6s do, right? 9s pull away. It's there. We all have a behavior that we enact whenever we run into any of those circumstances. If you like the behavior, it's great. But if you don't like it, what are the 2 words or 1 word even that you can say inside your head, maybe outside, that will interrupt that? And then you practice that, because what you want is to give yourself a pause if you can. All right. What I'd like is discussion on that, or ideas on that, or what were your 2 words, or whatever. Go ahead, Maria. Thank you.
Thanks, Cher. Maria Gratti. So I chose dignity and self-respect, and that I'm a 2. that works for me really well. In that case, I walked away because, as I often say, I'm, those that are committed to misunderstanding me, I'm just not going to waste my time. So, and if people want to misconstrue that as me running away, which it isn't, or cowardly or being a wuss or whatever they may believe, well, that's their issue and their problem, because I don't need to get into a drag out fight. I've got better things to do and better priorities in life. So yeah, that helps me keep my peace and serenity. I've let go and released it and given it to my higher power. So
Thank you, Maria. And I think that's almost like this is more words than that. I'm not going to stoop to your level kind of thing, right? And you just say dignity, right? And it doesn't mean you say it out loud, but in your head, because what you do, I mean, and maybe this isn't true for all types, certainly true for the type 8. I do not want to get in your face, and the ego's default is that for me. The ego's default is that for the 9, it's escaping for that, right? So all the other types, you have something that you do, right? That then you feel later maybe owe an amends for. And that's what we're trying. It doesn't mean that we're not going to experience these. And I'm not saying hide it. I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is there is a difference between feeling whatever that feeling is and acting out on it, right? The actual act of something that could potentially cause harm is what I don't want to do. The feelings are going to be there. That's why we have journals, right? That's why we have prayers. That's why we have friends. That's why we have a community like this, because then I deal with it. But I don't need to deal with it by getting in someone's face or by whatever is your behavior as your type. I don't need to deal with it in that way, because then I owe amends, or then I'm basically beating myself up, or then I'm doing all this stuff that I don't want to do. So what you want to do is give yourself the pause, give yourself the break, go and journal on it, call a friend, right? Come back here and share on it. That's what you want to do. Thank you,
yeah.
Maria. Yeah.
Yes,
Dignity.
thank you, Cher. And I was also thinking that for me, it's bad enough letting somebody else down, but letting myself down, it crucifies me more than I've got to live with myself if I
Yes.
allow my arrow to my 8 to be in charge, because I don't want to get ugly. I don't want to do or say something that is probably going to be more harmful to me than the other person.
Yeah.
So I don't want to live with all the negatives of my conscience, my guilt, my what I'm going to do to myself if I go there. So I make a conscious choice not to, and most of the time I'm able to do that, and it works very well for me and for the other person.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to say too, one of the things that happens with the 2, because the 2, once again, the arrows and wings, we pull in those things and you could find yourself acting like an 8. But the other thing that can happen, right, early on, especially, the 2s will act like 2s. They have a better idea. They do stuff for other people that other people should be allowed to do for themselves, right? So I just think it's fascinating. All of the things that we do, right, by type. And once again, it's this ego jumping up. And what we're really saying is down ego. I got this. I don't need you, right? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. All right. Linda, to you.
Yes, I've had some, as I shared in my group, I have some juicy things that have come up. And luckily, it's the 10th step month. So where one is, amends to a group, and the other one's amends to me for not being able to speak up during the meeting. And I don't know if my words would be maybe eventually just narrowed down to more. And then right now it would be more later, because I feel like I'm not able to process everything that is presented in a full way that I would like to. And the particular thing, it was, a meeting had decided to vote out hybrid, and And I just felt like that needed more discussion, but I'm just going along with them, you know. And then afterwards, I'm like, can't wait. I can't sleep at night. I'm journaling about it at 2:30 in the morning. I'm pissed off because my friend of over 30 years, she's not going to be able to come to the meeting because she moved away. My little Carol, that's 80 years old, she's not going to be able to come to the meeting because she doesn't drive at night, and I'm pissed off. So anyway, more later, asking them to continue can we carry this over, and hopefully higher power just brings that more in right now, and I can get more and carry out more of the group conscience right then and there. Thanks.
And thank you. And Linda, I will say for the 9s, because, right, I mean, the fact that you're seeing this is to come up with literally a sentence that you say for that you practice and practice, so it's like in your head and you can say it. And maybe it's something, can we think about it for one more week and come back and discuss this next week or next month or whatever? But a phrase that you can say without any explanation on why, right? And it can be something even as simple as, I need longer to process this. I'm not ready to vote on this yet. Can we pend it for one more month or whatever? Right? Because when all the emotion is there, right, I get in people's face. 9 gets silent, right? But then you have other shit that you have to deal with. So yeah, absolutely. But I do think having, when I used to teach presentation skills, I was like, the first minute of your presentation should be absolutely exactly the same every time, because you've got so much energy that you need to, right? You need to bottle that up. And then after that, everything is fine. And so if you have that sentence, I mean, you would be, think of all the times in your life when that would have been helpful. I recommend that we wait one more week on this so that all of us can think about it. I mean, maybe that's the sentence. Think of all the times in your life when that would have really, really helped a lot. Even if somebody came back, I don't want to do that. Doesn't matter. Repeat the sentence, So yeah, thank you, Linda, for sharing that. And thank you for giving a 9 example, because that's exactly it. I keep giving 8 examples. So thank you for giving a 9 example. I appreciate it. All right, Joy, to you.
So I did a brainstorm of several two words, and then I chose one that's probably the best. The first ones were don'ts for me. Don't react or don't respond. Then don't apologize, especially if I'm not at fault, because I have a habit of doing that. Discern this is to just think about it. Then I have some hard ones. Go away, either them or me.
So you would say, go away. I want a doormat that says that, go away.
No, when my husband comes in and he's snarky or judging my, whatever I'm doing. Anyway, okay, then I have him, I'm sorry. Either you're an idiot. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you're having a hard time. Or really, I'm truly sorry. Okay, these are the more better ones. Self-care is one. Higher power, another. Loving parent. I'm okay. And the last one is honor, and it's either myself or my feelings. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Thank you. Yeah. I can see your little 8 arrow sticking out. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. I'm going to do that one.
Well, I'm just learning how to speak up, right? And I'm getting this. I mean, I even thought of, that's just a pimple on my ass, right? Basically.
You were a
Yes,
pimple on
I
my
am becoming 8 loss.
Oh my God. Nobody, that's why it wasn't more than 2 words. No, I'm kidding. Thank you. All right, Dave, do you? Thanks, Joy.
Yeah, my 2 words are not mine, which is shorthand for none of my business, which is something I've really become conscious of, especially since I've gotten more involved in Al-Anon than I ever have before recently. And practically every Al-Anon meeting that I go to, and I go at least once a week. Either I or someone else in the meeting, usually several people, are talking about some situation that is none of their business or none of my business. And um, that's just so helpful to me, because not just my 8 nature who wants to confront people, but also my 2 arrow. It's like, I want to help people. I need this, these people need my help, and it's my job to help them. No,
Yep.
sometimes they need to be stuck in their shit and they have to figure it out themselves. And it's not going to help them for me to try and fix it for them. And usually when I try and fix it for them, it backfires anyway. So, but the number of things that are none of my business just grows and grows and grows all the time. And Kim and I just got back from a 16-day road trip. We drove over 3,000 miles, all through Arizona and Texas and New Mexico and back through Arizona again and back home. And we had a wonderful time. And a traveling like that can gives an off, a lot of opportunity to practice step 10 with each other and with other drivers and with, hotel front desk clerks and everything else. Um, and whenever I would find myself saying, why would this person do this or that? I was like, wait, that's not my business. Why they do what they do is none of my business. And that just cuts it short. It's so helpful to me to, when I remember to do it, which is not all the time, but when I remember to do it, it's really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I have a t-shirt that says, not my circus, not my monkeys fly. Thank you, Dave. But yeah, that's Norma gave me that mine, not mine, not mine, right? Yeah, good 2 words. Thank you, Dave. All right, Cheryl, to you.
Okay, so I was tossed between the 2 words, I forgive or that's okay. I was let go from a job for no reason at all. The people that own this little grocery store, convenience store, were not American, and I don't think they understood you just can't let anybody go for no reason. But then the more I thought about it, I believe I heard some people say that yes, you can be let go for no reason at all. If they don't like you, they don't like you. But I don't know. They did wrong. And you know what? I actually didn't even really want to work there anymore. So why it bothered me for the longest time. But anyway, so my words are, it's okay, or I forgive.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I think that, yeah, understanding other people's motive, we can never really understand someone else's motivation. Maybe if we understood their type a little better, we might be able to at least kind of guess at it, but it is hard to say. And as far as the different states have different rules for who you can fire or not, and some of the states are non or a free work state or something, and they can fire for no reason at all. It just depends on the state.
Mm.
So yeah, but it does suck when that happens. So I'm sorry that happened to you. Thank you, Cheryl. All right, Janice, to you, and then Richard, and then Tamara, and then Elham. So go ahead, Janice.
So my word is breathe. And then I do it and I breathe deeply, and it gives me a second to not respond like I wanted to. I had an example. I was on a trip, vacation to Hawaii with my sister, and I was driving, and it was drizzling and not enough to turn on the windshield wipers. And then she kept on telling me, turn on the windshield wipers, turn on the windshield wipers. And I wanted to scream at her, but and I have my right hand arm is not totally normal, and I couldn't drive and turn on a windshield wiper simultaneously. And after I breathed, I explained to her what the problem was. She like, okay, then I'll switch it. I'll turn them on when I need to. And she did, and then it made her more knowledgeable of my condition than she was before, and we got along fine. Stopped what I was going to do.
Which is awesome. Yeah, thank you. Exactly. That's exactly it. Because you could react angrily, right? Or you can just go explain. That's a wonderful example. And for a 5 to explain themselves is hard. That's not a, you know what I mean? That's a tough thing, at least for my husband. He's lots of knowledge, but doesn't like to explain himself to other people. he he has a strong 8 wing, I think, or 8 arrow. But one time somebody asked him a question and he said, "Didn't I tell you?" And they said, "No." And he said, "Then it must not be any of your business." I found that funny, but not everybody would. What can I say? I love my husband. All right, Richard, and then Tamara, and then Elham, and then Jim. Go ahead, Richard.
So thank you, Janice, for saying the word breathe, because that became one of my mantras. But the word I chose, I'm going to give you a little bit of context, and it should explain everything. Auto parts store yesterday. So my word is unclench, whether it's my jaw or my fist. I also thought of I'm gone, but anyway, I don't think I need to explain much beyond that I was at an auto parts store and how frustrating that can be. So loosen my jaw a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah, here in Vegas, Vegas has always been, we've lived here 13 years now, and it's always been very customer service oriented, but not lately. Like after COVID, it all kind of broke down a little bit. So, and we go, okay, and just, it's more than 2 words, but customer service doesn't exist anymore. It's part of accepting life, right? Yeah, breathe. I like that. And unclench for sure. All right, Tamara.
Oh, your laughter doesn't add to the sincerity of the I'm sorry, just saying.
That's true. That's a sorry, not sorry, right?
So I had a few words. Richard reminded me of one set was let go. Another one was be kind. And so I'm torn between be kind and they're me. They're me. I just realized this. That customer service person at the grocery store, that customer service person on the phone, they're that lower level 6th me. They are jumping in, trying to fix, and I didn't ask. They're me or be kind is probably because I haven't gotten to the point of maybe not saying something, but it's the part I leave with is how I've said things. So thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. What energy am I showing up with? Right? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tamara.
Thanks for recovering with us.